Imagine a transparent animal with no face, no head, and no brain like ours. Now look closer. Hanging from its body are 4 tiny sensory clubs, and each club carries 6 eyes. That makes 24 eyes watching the world from a creature that looks like a floating cube of glass. This is a box jellyfish, and those eyes are real. Some even have lenses, retinas, pupils, and sophisticated optics. Yet there is no central brain receiving 24 video feeds. Instead, vision is processed by a nervous system distributed around the jellyfish's body. So what does it actually see? And how can an animal know where it is going when there is no head office in charge? First, the famous number needs context. Box jellyfish are not just ordinary jellyfish with extra eyes glued on. They belong to a group called cubozoa, named for their roughly box-shaped bells. All known box jellyfish share the same basic visual arrangement. Around the lower edge of the bell are 4 dangling structures called rhopalia. Each rhopalium is smaller than it appears in close-up, but it is packed with sensory equipment. It carries 1 upper lens eye, 1 lower lens eye, 2 slit eyes, and 2 pit eyes. 6 eyes per rhopalium, repeated 4 times, gives 24. But these are not 24 identical cameras. They are 4 different kinds of light detector, aimed in different directions and probably handling different jobs. The 2 lens eyes are the most familiar looking. Light enters through a lens and reaches a retina lined with photoreceptors. The lower lens eye even has an adjustable pupil in some species. Viewed by itself, it could be mistaken for a tiny eye from an animal with a far more conventional body. The pit and slit eyes are simpler. They do not form detailed images in the same way. Their exact behavioral roles are still less clearly understood, and research published in 2026 showed that their light-sensitive chemistry is more complicated than a simple one-eye, one-job system. Multiple opsin proteins may operate in some of these smaller eyes. So the jellyfish is not carrying 24 copies of the same view. It has a collection of specialized sensors. Now comes the strangest part. A box jellyfish does not hold its eyes steady with a neck, eye muscles, or an inner ear. Each rhopalium hangs from a flexible stalk. At its lower end is a dense crystal called a statolith. Gravity pulls on that crystal like a tiny counterweight. As the jellyfish tilts, turns, or rolls, the rhopalium swings beneath its attachment point. The whole eye cluster remains aligned with gravity. It works like a self-leveling camera mount made from living tissue. The upward-looking eyes keep looking upward. The downward-looking eyes keep viewing the world below and around the animal. The jellyfish can rotate while its sensory system mechanically stabilizes its gaze. That matters enormously for a small Caribbean species called Tripedalia cystophora. It lives among mangrove roots, where the water is cluttered with vertical obstacles and broken by patches of sunlight. It must remain near productive areas without drifting into open water, while avoiding roots that could damage its delicate bell. One set of eyes looks upward through the surface. From underwater, the world above is compressed into a bright circular window by the way light bends at the boundary between air and water. Inside that window, the jellyfish can detect the dark mass of the mangrove canopy. Its vision is not sharp enough to count leaves or inspect branches, but it does not need that kind of detail. The canopy appears as a large visual landmark. Experiments have shown that Tripedalia uses this landmark to navigate toward the mangrove-lined edge of a lagoon, block its view of the canopy, and its ability to choose the correct direction is disrupted. This animal is using an underwater eye to navigate by trees on land. Meanwhile, the lower lens eyes help deal with the immediate underwater world. They look through the jellyfish's own transparent bell toward obstacles around and below it. Dark mangrove roots expand across the visual field as the animal approaches. That change can trigger a turn before collision. Its eyes are not miniature human eyes. The optics can focus light impressively well, but in studied species, the retina does not sit where the sharpest image would form. The result is deliberately coarse vision with broad receptive fields. That sounds like bad engineering until you consider the task. A jellyfish does not need to read. It does not need to recognize a face at the other end of a reef. It needs to detect large contrasts, the direction of a canopy, the approach of a route, and changes in brightness that could signal opportunity or danger. A blurred dark column may be all the information required to say, "Turn now." But who receives that message? This is where the phrase, "no brain," becomes misleading. Box jellyfish do lack a conventional centralized brain. There is no single organ comparable to a vertebrate brain, with every sense reporting to one central command center. They absolutely do have neurons, nerve nets spread through the body. A complex nerve ring runs around the bell, connecting the 4 rhopalia and the bases of the tentacles. Inside each rhopalium are concentrated networks of neurons, synapses, visual pathways, and pacemaker circuits that help control swimming. Each rhopalium is more than an eye holder. It behaves in some ways like a local processing station. Visual signals can be integrated there and used to alter the rhythm and direction of the animal's movement. Think less like one large computer connected to 24 cameras and more like 4 small sensory controllers connected around a circular network. Each controller monitors its part of the world. The system coordinates their outputs without building a single detailed picture inside a central brain. The body then turns information into motion. A box jellyfish swims by contracting its bell and forcing water out. Around the opening is a thin muscular sheet called the valerium. By changing the shape of this opening, the jellyfish can redirect the jet and steer. Visual stimulation on one side can alter the valerium asymmetrically. The opening shifts, the water jet changes direction, and the jellyfish turns away from an obstacle or toward a useful visual cue. Experiments found that animals with 3 functioning rhopalia could still respond to directional visual information, although their control became less reliable. With only 1 rhopalium, the directional response was lost. That suggests steering emerges from cooperation among multiple sensory centers. No single cluster needs to understand the entire world. Together, they produce organized behavior. And the system can do more than react. In 2023, researchers tested whether Tripedalia could learn from experience. They placed the jellyfish in tanks with striped walls designed to resemble mangrove roots under different levels of visual contrast. When the stripes looked dark and obvious, the jellyfish treated them as nearby roots and stayed away. When the stripes were pale gray, they appeared more distant. At first, the animals swam too close and bumped into the wall. Then their behavior changed. After combining the weak visual cue with the physical sensation of collision, the jellyfish began turning sooner. They kept farther from the wall and reduced their collisions. Experiments on isolated rhopalia supported the conclusion that the rhopalial nervous system was central to this associative learning. That does not mean the jellyfish thinks like a person, forms plans, or has a hidden mind spread through its bell. Learning does not automatically imply consciousness. It means its nervous system can connect one kind of information with another and modify future behavior. The pale stripe becomes meaningful because it has been paired with a bump. This may be the real lesson of the box jellyfish. We often imagine intelligence and sensory processing as a ladder. First comes simple reflexes, then a central brain, then eyes, learning, navigation, and complex behavior. But evolution is not required to build in that order. Box jellyfish separated from our branch of animal life deep in evolutionary history. Their camera-type eyes arose along a very different path, even though some of the basic molecular components resemble those used by other animals. Their nervous system solved control without concentrating everything inside a head. 24 eyes sound excessive only if we assume eyes exist to create one rich internal movie. For this animal, vision is closer to a collection of targeted questions. Is the canopy over there? Is a dark object getting closer? Has this faint shape predicted a collision before? Which swimming pulse should change next? The answers can be local, fast, and incomplete. They only need to be good enough to guide a transparent body between mangrove roots. So the box jellyfish is not an empty drifting bag that somehow acquired eyes. It is a moving network of sensors, processors, pacemakers, nerves, and muscles. Its vision is stabilized by gravity, divided among specialized eyes, processed in 4 sensory hubs, and converted directly into steering. It has no brain like ours because its body never needed to build one. Instead, the whole animal became the control system.